Yeah. We're gonna put that right, man. I don't know. Every time I leave and come back, that's always messed up. Anyway, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Refuse to Shoot. You know what I'm saying? We live. We are live. We are live. Just getting everything, excuse me, ready in the background. Making sure nothing goes unturned, unfucked up, etc., etc. I hope y'all having a good day, good week, good month, good year. So far has been a crazy one, but all in all, that shouldn't matter. Why? Because time continues to move forward, and so should you. Um, Today we're gonna be watching Mr. Umar Johnson on the daily wrap up crew. Shout out to them boys, the wrap up crew. They definitely been putting in that work. I definitely applaud them on what they're doing. They definitely are putting in that work. Um, Listen, we're gonna have some interviews coming up soon. I think we're gonna have somebody else who was on before. We're gonna see how that works out. Hopefully, it works out in a positive manner. He says he has some more things coming up, and on this channel, I definitely support him. You know what I mean? Um, what can I say? What do you want? What do you want? You know what I'm saying? So we're taking a look at this video from Dr. Umar Johnson. Let me go ahead and set up live scene. Oh, you wasn't supposed to see that. Doesn't matter anyway. So anyway, yeah. So Dr. Umar Johnson goes on to the daily wrap up crew, and the daily wrap up crew consists of three young black men, and they talk about relationships in the black dating world and in black culture in general. If I know better from the title, Dr. Umar Johnson is definitely going to be talking about. They're going to be talking about interracial dating, uh, most likely Pan Africanism, the war on gender, which I'm not going to say it's hard to believe, but I'm not going to say it's not something that's happening. I think it's something different. Many people agree, many people disagree, but I think ultimately these aren't wars, these are battles, and there is one ultimate war. Now, that ultimate war is simple: to have the most resources, more resources than anybody else. That is the war. These mini battles that everybody is fighting, they're all just situations that were plagued in front of you, beside you, and all around you, just so that you can be blind at the ending of the day. Anyway, that's just my little 2 cents for now. We're gonna jump into this video. So it's fairly long. That's why I decided, you know what, we're gonna live stream it. Give you some time to ingest whatever he's saying, whatever he's talking about. If you have any comments, you can always put it in the comments. I'm gonna be doing a lot more live streams as well, man. We're gonna be ramping up. So I told y'all. I told y'all. You know what I'm saying? I told y'all. It's about to get a lot more in debt with YouTube. YouTube is, and I'm gonna be expanding out to a different platform as well. So hopefully you guys follow me over there. Without further ado, let's go ahead and start this video.
Pro-black ended outside.
Impossible. You cannot. Marriage is a business.
Got my good brother right here,
go ahead,
who's
Ernie.
an advocate, and he says that you can be pro-black ended outside.
Impossible. You cannot. Marriage is a business. When you get married, you commit your mind, your body, your heart, your soul, and your pocketbook, your savings, your estate, your wealth. You commit that to that person you're married to. See, when you marry, you don't marry an individual. You marry into a race. You marry into a community. So I didn't marry a Jewish woman. I married into Jewish society. I didn't marry an Asian woman. I married into an Asian family. There's no way you can claim to love black people, especially as a black man, knowing that only 1 out of every 4 black women will get married in her lifetime. We have the lowest female marriage rate in the country, 25%. That means 75% of black women will never, ever know what it feels like to be proposed to.
Nah, that's some interesting shit. I wouldn't go as far as to say they may have not, that you're not gonna get married. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna put that out there. But it does raise some interesting conversation when it's said that black women are the least aren't married the most, or even they're not even getting proposed to. 25% is really low. It's really low. That's a problem. But for who though? Is it a problem for men or is it a problem for women? Because black men, we carry the seed, and anywhere we go, we can create a black baby. So black women carry the seed, and wherever they go, they carry the next society. Um, I'm not saying that to be rude, but it's just the truth. Now, you may not think it's the truth, and the pushback will be there. Understandable. But through generations and generations and generations has shown that the strongest man usually usually creates the next society or the next generation. Um, the strongest women, they preserve the next society, next culture, next civilization. So it's gonna be an interesting conversation. So I'm here for it. I got a couple of things to do today, but today, first and foremost, I decided to come on here and we talk about this. We got a lot more videos coming up too later on. I got some videos to drop, some reactions, and let's get to it, man. Pretty loud. Part uno.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Daily Wrap Up Crew. No Booker, but I go by the name of Eli. As always, we got Ace with us.
Yes, indeed. You know who it is. It's the only podcast that's relevant. We got Umar on the show. It's Black Excellence.
Stop it, bro. You're not the only podcast that's relevant. I understand that you're boosting your head up and your ego because you guys are getting very far, and I appreciate that. We definitely appreciate the work and the advancements that you guys are actually been doing on YouTube. But let's be clear. And that's about it. Let's be clear.
I mean, out here.
Okay, I respect that. Last but not least, we got Jew.
What it do? I'm here with my crew, Dr. Umar too. And if you don't like, share, subscribe. 100 lashes for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yo,
Hey, yo, 100 is crazy.
I came prepared. Like, yo, y'all was brainstorming out there.
I had to. I had to write today. Umar was pulling up.
Listen, man, we got special guests in the building. We got the Prince of Pan-Africanism, King Kong Consciousness. So y'all know the man.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Umar Johnson.
Glad to be here, fellas. Thanks for inviting me.
Mm-hmm.
And real quick, can you let the folks know that sleeping under a rock that might not know who you are?
Absolutely. Dr. Umar Ifatunde, certified school psychologist, doctor of clinical psychology, founder of the National Independent Black Parent Association, Team Pan-African, the international movement for the independence.
I'm not gonna lie as well, Mr. Umar, Mr. Johnson. We are waiting for that school to be developed. I really think that it's gonna be a great outcome. I understand that great things take time to be developed. And that's why I'm patient. But I hope that you actually get to achieve this goal before you are too old to enjoy it, or to at least advance the wisdom and knowledge that you have and you've obtained to the children that need that as well. So,
in protection of African people, I'm probably most known for helping Black parents learn how to protect their children from the special education crisis in the ADHD to prison pipeline. Author of 2 books, Psychoacademic Holocaust, The Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys, as well as Black Parent Advocate, The Art of War, for dealing with America's public and charter schools. I'm also a Pan-Africanist, the Garveyite, and I'm currently putting the finishing touches on the first school in American history to be funded exclusively by the African diaspora, and that is the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. If all goes well, we'll probably be having our community grand opening during Kwanzaa 2023.
Listen, before we get into these
Kwanzaa 2023. Let's look that up. What is Kwanzaa? I'm not savvy. Leave me alone. When is Kwanzaa? So Kwanzaa is December 26th to January 1st. So by December, hopefully, it should be up. Let's see. Prayers up, man.
topics. You gotta make sure we get an invite, man, so we can pull up.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Before we get into these topics, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe if y'all not already subscribed. Join the YouTube membership, man. We got some exclusive behind the scene footage, access to early episodes, and then cop the merch, man. DailyRapperCrew.co, man. Make sure y'all go support. Listen, let me get to this first.
I ain't got no shirt for me.
Oh, definitely do.
We definitely got
definitely do.
you know what I'm
2XL, don't give me no bra.
I told you.
You
See,
yeah, you did.
I did. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah.
Appreciate it.
Listen, get into this first topic, right? I know you're very big with the Pan-African community. What is your ultimate goal that you have in mind for the overall Pan-African community?
Great question. The vision, the mission, the goal of Pan-Africanism is to unite all African people globally into one unified and organized system through which we can protect ourselves politically, economically, socially, culturally, spiritually, academically, so forth and so on. So unity is the foundation and independence is the elevation. That's the goal of Pan-Africanism, to make sure African people are not dependent upon members of other races in order to protect our lifestyle, our culture, and most of all, the destiny of our children. Do for self is the heart and soul of Pan-Africanism. So,
you know how I understand where he's coming from. I understand the heart where he's coming from, where the heart, what the heart wants, and what the body wants, but the mind of many people have been reconstructed to have if you were to think about it, Africans are all over this country. Not only just in America. If you were to have a nation where all Africans were to come back to where you are right now, the cultures wouldn't leave. The cultures would still be there. How hard would it be for the first couple of generations of cultures, of African cultures that were re-educated into different societies, as he would say, different cultures, coming in under one umbrella? It'll be another melting pot. We're trying that right now. We're trying that right now with America, and you see the destruction that takes place. I think this is maybe the first or second place ever to try and really do something like this. You know what I'm saying? And it's very destructive. I'm not saying I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not saying it won't happen. But I know one thing. Man, it'll be tough. I'm not against it, but it would be tough.
So when we win, we will be in charge of our lives. We will control the banks. We will control the hospitals. We will control the criminal justice system. We will control the economy. We basically want a parallel world that is under our authority, because whoever controls your institutions controls your life.
Got you. So the big word that I heard was, unity, right? So what is your overall thoughts? Obviously, you can see that we have this gender war going on, this diaspora war going on. What's your thoughts on those overall wars that's going on within the Pan-African community?
I would not be surprised if we learned 20, 30 years from now that the domestic gender war was inspired by the FBI, just as the FBI gave birth to COINTELPRO back in the 70s and 60s to disrupt and destroy the credibility and success of Black liberation movements. I could very well see where COINTELPRO or something similar to it could have also been invented to turn the Black woman against the Black man and the Black man against the Black woman. If you look at this, it looks just like COINTELPRO, except it's not Stokely Carmichael fighting Huey P. Newton. It's not Dr. King, and Malcolm having differences. You understand? It's you and your baby's mother having differences. It's you and your fiance having differences. It's you
And you know what? That is a lot more destructive. That is probably some of the most destructive pattern that can take place. You have differences, and you can't agree with your significant other. That right there is probably more dangerous than the Stokely Carmichael or Malcolm X going at it with each other. Two men having a disagreement and fighting, that's regular. But this is new. This is very new. The disagreements and the misunderstandings of women and men being told out loud, it's completely different now. Before, you would have women who would just agree. Majority of the women would agree. The minority of women would just perish, and vice versa. So now, the majority of men and the majority of women can't even understand each other. They lost. They lost that though. It was a loss due to the fact of having to have to work so hard. You gotta let's be for real. Black community, black folk. These bills and everything that we have to go through nowadays, your fathers and mothers didn't have to go through it, so you didn't have to build this kind of wall up. You had time to actually be romantic, show romance, actually attend to the farm, so to speak, on both sides. Now the man has to work extremely hard just to make ends meet or become something that he isn't. You wanted this sense of power given to you by the world, and you have to work for it nonstop, 24/7. And the woman, while she's at home, she has to sit there and just observe that, or be a team player and be under you. Now the women are understanding that if you have a weakling if you're following a weakling, everything can go to shit. Excuse my language. Now it's now it's their turn. Now women have a chance and an opportunity, not only in just one race, not only in just one area of the world. They have an opportunity now to make money, something that they didn't have the opportunity to make a lot of. But now, with the men that are in the world now, who rather say, you know what, marriage is stupid. Why not just pay this lady for her services and keep going? And it's ramping up even more and more because they understand now that it was a lie when they said it's cheaper to keep her. It's a lie, bro. So let me shut up though. We're gonna watch more of this.
And your wife having differences, and the family is an institution, no different than SNCC, no different than CORE, no different than the PAC.
Of course, it's an institution. When you're born, you're born in a world that you don't know about, and the first teacher that you have is your mother, and she has to install everything, almost everything that she's learned, she's went through, to you. And then the father also has to sit there and direct your randomness that you've learned from your mother into logic to make you into something or someone that's more productive to the world. Hopefully.
Panthers, no different than the Garvey movement, no different than the Freedom Riders. So I'm keeping an eye on it, but I really do believe that at some point we're going to find out that the U.S. government had a hand in the gender wars and the promotion of it, because I don't think it's a coincidence that this black male versus black female gender war is being initiated at the very same time that the U.S. government is pushing transgenderism on elementary black public school children. So is that a coincidence that while you're trying to disintegrate the black family through non-traditional forms of life, through black on black crime?
I don't think it's only black on black situations happening right now. Every society is going through it. Every society. And I understand he's pinpointing just black folk, but every society is going through it. Just sit down and talk to folk. Just sit down and talk to people. More than just your color. Talk to people and you'll see. It's a problem that's going on all over right now.
Through police genocide, through poor nutrition, poor healthcare, all these weapons, the Snow Bunny crisis, along with that, you see so many commercials now where it's the black man with the white woman or the black woman with the white man. Clearly, there's an agenda to brainwash our children into either being with someone of the same sex or someone of another race. And I think the gender wars coming at this time plays into the hand of the government's agenda to destroy the black community. On the other side, when we look at the diaspora wars, I think that's a CIA inspired situation. You know, I wouldn't.
One is within the states, and another one is
FBI
okay.
doesn't have a charter to operate internationally. So if you want to disrupt locally, it's the FBI. CIA has no charter to operate domestically. So when the CIA interrupts, it's internationally. So the CIA is outside of America, FBI is inside of America. If you're a Pan-Africanist like the Honorable Marcus Garvey, El Hajj Malik El Shabazz, Malcolm X, Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, you're a Pan-Africanist, you're automatically going to be watched by the FBI domestically and the CIA internationally. And I think the diaspora wars plays right into the hand of America's foreign policy initiatives. There was a security memorandum that came out, I think it was in the late 70s, early 80s, where the U.S. government, in a private security memorandum that has now been published now, said the greatest threat to American foreign interests is what? The operational unity of Africans in America and Africans in Africa. This is the government. Our biggest threat is if we let the blacks on that side of the Atlantic Ocean organize.
This is a memo?
Oh, it's a memo. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I could probably get you the numbers. It's not on the top of my head right now. Absolutely.
Right.
Some people have even published it in books. It's definitely on the internet. People have referred to it. So they basically said, in essence, Pan-Africanism is our only problem. They don't care about nothing else. People pushing religions, people pushing socialism. They don't care about that. Pan-Africanism is the only threat to white supremacy.
So
that's crazy.
So what would you say about, obviously when we talk about the diaspora world, there's a sense of, African people or Caribbean people using the word, well, I'm not black, you know what I mean? I'm Caribbean or I'm African or whatever the case is. And they kind of associate negativity or negative stereotypes with Black Americans per se. And they feel like they don't want to identify as black because black usually is the term that Black Americans call themselves. So I don't want to be identified as black, so I am Caribbean. It's like they're separate people over there. You know what I mean? So what's your thoughts on that whole, that divide and just that whole blatant negative stereotype that some Africans or Caribbeans or other black people feel towards Black Americans?
Well, the white man's original tactic of divide and conquer, separate and rule is still his most cherished weapon against African people. You see, understandably, when people look at America up until now being, quote unquote, the most powerful country in the world, if you want to get down with the most powerful country in the world, you're going to have to despise who they despise. And since America has done such a great job despising African people, anybody who wants to come to this country, even if they are African, are going to seek somebody else's company other than ours, right? That doesn't make what they do right. But we have to look at the fact that we as African people in America haven't done a whole lot collectively to make ourselves the power base we should be for all African people. With our education, with our income, being the richest group of African people in the world in terms of take-home pay, we should be the power base for African people throughout the world. Y'all need institutions, we're going to fund them. Y'all have a problem with your water, we're going to fund that. You understand me? You got a medical crisis, we're going to take care of that. We have the resources, we got the personnel, we got the expertise, we got the money. We should be the power base. So when an African comes to America from outside of this country, they say, well, wait a minute now. If I align myself with the African American, what is in that for me? Because I don't even see the African American doing anything for themselves on a collective basis. We have success, but it's all individual, right? There's very few institutions that we run and control independently.
I can agree to that. All of these small businesses that have been taking place in these last couple of years, Black-owned businesses, if they were to actually come together in one room once a year and just have other Black folk come into that room and spend money, and all the money that was made that day, go into a bank account, or some kind of secured holding sector, we could change a lot of lives in one city. We can go to every city and do that. Things will be a lot different. But individualism is kicking our ass. I don't think people understand what the Pledge of Allegiance meant. Go back and read the Pledge of Allegiance and you'll realize the whole basis of how America is working. That's exactly how it should work on a smaller scale. But nobody wants to do that. That saying and that way of moving was actually created by a different time, and nobody understands it. You gotta learn how to work collectively, man. That was something I didn't know when I was a kid. When I was younger, didn't know that, but I tried every single day to do that. But it's not the same anymore because we're older now.
Let's take it to Little League. When you go for the Little League football team or the basketball team, do you go try out for the team that's losing every year? Or do you want to be on the championship team? Most children want to be on the championship team. So when Africans from the diaspora come to America, they see two teams. The black team that has lost 157 straight Super Bowls since the end of slavery, right? And the white team that seem like they still winning and doing great. I want to align myself with the white team. Now, the mistake that Africans in the diaspora are making is that if you do not link up with us, your national homeland will never be free either. See, what they do to African people anywhere, they do to African people everywhere. So if you come from Nigeria, you come from Ghana, you come from Jamaica, you come from Turks and Caicos, you don't associate with African people, you go get you a snow bunny, move up on the west side, you can do all that. But understand, your life is only as sacred as white people allow it to be. At any minute, they can turn you into a Breonna Taylor, whether you have a U.S. passport or not. You've seen it happen here in New York City years ago with the Abner Louima and Amadou Diallo cases, where the police, abused African immigrants right here in New York City. So when it comes to white people, we're all African. They know who we are. But they will use one group against the other as long as it is in their best interest. And once they're done using that group, guess what they do to that group? They destroy them too. It's no difference than looking at the black community compared to black celebrities. They used Bill Cosby as long as they could. And when they no longer needed him, they turned on him. Right. They'll use Whitney Houston as long as they could. When they no longer needed her, they murdered her. Michael Jackson, they murdered him. Prince, they murdered him. Jimi Hendrix, they murdered him. Kobe Bryant, they murdered him. You understand? So all of us are nothing but tools in the hand of white supremacy. We have to wake up from that nightmare, from that imaginary illusion of inclusion that has black people thinking, if I come to America, but stay away from African Americans, I'll be given probationary white status. You'll never be given probationary white status because you are not white. And when they're done using you for your intellectual knowledge, when they're done using you in the labor market, when they're done using you, helping to perpetuate the myth of a multicultural colorblind America, they'll bust you right back to the country you came from. All African people in America who are not practicing Pan-Africanism are simply tools that are being used that have an expiration date. And when your utility to the white power structure expires, you will too, and they will send you back home. And this is why they hate blacks in America so much, the white power structure. We're the only non-white people in the country who cannot be sent home. Right. You cannot be deported. Slavery destroyed your cultural, psychological, and intellectual connection to your ancestral homeland. If the Ghanaian get on your nerve, he go back to Ghana. If the Puerto Rican gets on your nerves, he go back to Puerto Rico. If the Afro-Cuban gets on your nerves, he or she go back to Cuba, right? If the Chinese get on your nerves, send them back to China. If the East Indian gets on your nerves, send them back to India. If the Arab gets on your nerve, send them back to one of the Middle Eastern states. But when American Africans get on your nerves, where do you deport us to? You can't deport us. Yeah. Slavery destroyed that connection that they needed in order to remove us. Most American Africans are so brainwashed, they think they're American. So you cannot deport them because this is what they identify with most. So in other words, the white man created his own problem, which makes it almost impossible to deport us. So the only way to get rid of us is a systemic system of racial genocide, and that's what they're using.
So what do you think about people? Because a conversation.
I tell you this, the man's breakdown of these type of situations is interesting. I can't agree to all of it, but it's interesting to hear him talk about what may be. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that it's true. I'm not saying that it's false. Because you're never going to know unless you're in the situation. Dig? But I think it's a little more than that. But ultimately, it is definitely about power. Power is and always will be the first and the forefront of everybody's movement.
Argument that I have is with some Africans or Caribbeans is that they would say that Black Americans don't have any culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they'll say that racism doesn't exist because I was able to come from my country and I was able to be successful and provide for my family. Y'all just using racism as an excuse, to hold y'all back or whatever the case is. Well, what's your thoughts on?
Well, number one, they're politically ignorant, socially inexperienced. They know very little about the experience of the American African. And they also don't understand racism. In order for racism to succeed, some Blacks must be successful.
Mm-hmm.
You need a LeBron. You need an Oprah. You need a Tyler Perry. You need a Sean Carter. You need a Beyonce Knowles. You need a Sean Puffy Combs. You need a Robert Johnson. You follow? Why do you need successful Black people if you want to destroy our Black people? Because in order to brainwash the other ones into believing that your failure is not due to systemic discrimination, it's due to the fact that you're not intelligent enough or you're not working hard enough. Do you see that? Right. So if Dr. Umar is a billionaire, and you've been trying to get your business off the ground, it ain't popped yet. You've been trying to get your corporation off the ground, it ain't popped yet. You didn't open up 10 business, they all done flop. You need me as the billionaire to come and say, fellas, it's not your fault. They designed the system to not work in your behalf. But because I love being rich and I love my proximity to white culture and lifestyle, I don't tell you it's not your fault that there's a game set up and there's only going to be a few Dr. Umars. I tell you the problem is yours. Obviously, you didn't do your business plan right. Obviously, the reason why the bank didn't give you the business loan is because you didn't have your numbers right. Your credit wasn't high enough. You see that? And so the Black millionaire and billionaire class is one of white supremacy's greatest arguments to defend itself against accusations of racism. Because Oprah Winfrey is not going to indict the system. LeBron James is not going to indict the system. You understand me? Tyler Perry is not going to indict the system because they made their money through the system. And because they're at the top of Black society, they know how powerful white folks really are. They know how unfair the game really is. They know me being here is a privilege that white people gave me. Yes, I worked hard to get here, but I would never be here without their help. At the end of the day, all of our Black millionaires and billionaires are owned by the white power structure. I don't say that to be disrespectful because I respect LeBron James, right? I appreciate the image of a Black man with a Black woman with Black children who's never been in any trouble. Entered the league at 17, 18 years old and never had a single scandal. He's a good example of a responsible Black man. I like how Jay-Z came from Marcy Projects and now you're a billionaire the legal way. I like what Oprah did coming from nothing at Tennessee State. I like what Tyler Perry did coming from sleeping in his car to being a billionaire to owning the first all-Black music studio, one of the largest in the country. Even white folk go to Tyler Perry Studios to film their movies. Part of Black Panther 2 was filmed at Tyler Perry Studios. So I appreciate their rags to riches story. The problem is they can't top it off with a cherry on top. And the cherry on top is to look the camera in the eye and say, I made it, but most of my people will never will because the system is not designed for Black people to succeed. And this is how they get us. They'll promote a few Blacks. Everybody else struggling, everybody else in poverty, everybody else coming out of prison, but they'll promote a few Blacks, and because a few Blacks made it, they're automatically supposed to mean that we are doing better. No other group you could push that on because every other group is based on collective group progress. Black people, we are totally rooted in selfishness and meism. We don't have weism like the last.
I'm gonna tell you this. I went to therapy yesterday, and my therapist told me that I'm selfish. I didn't understand what she was saying when she said I was selfish, but I still don't understand what she said when she said I was selfish. And I'm still trying to figure it out. Honestly, I thought I was doing everything for more than just personal gain. But in this world, if you don't have anything for yourself, how can you help anybody else? It's just odd.
Latinos or weism, like the Asians or weism, like the Anglo-Saxons or weism, like the European Jews. We have meism. And as long as we have meism, a few successful blacks automatically means y'all all must do better. Like I think I saw Jay-Z do an interview one time and they said, well, what have you done for black people? And he said something to the effect, and I don't want to misquote him, I'm paraphrasing. He said something like, me just being who I am
is enough for black people.
Is enough for black people.
Okay.
Most ridiculous, arrogant, ignorant statement I ever heard. But that's what black millionaires and billionaires feel. Because I've made it, I'm a benefit to my race. And it's that same ridiculous black bourgeoisie illogical thinking that ushered Barack Obama into the White House, who did nothing for black people but steal everything we worked for and give it to the gays, the immigrants, the Latinos, and white women.
A lot of people don't, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
No, I said, so what do you say about like selective people that selectively black, or they want to seem like they support black people? And you know, black people are like, we're forgiving to everybody, right? We always give opportunity.
Except each other.
Yeah, exactly. So how do we handle that? Or should we still be supportive? Or because
Give me an example of someone who's selectively black. Give me an example of.
Right.
Like people that like kind of pick and choose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was saying that as far as like groups, different people. Okay, so like, let's bring even the reparation situation. So there's a lot of groups of people, like people from Jamaica or people from the Caribbean. They're not black, but now they're hearing that reparations is a possibility. They want to be black now.
I would argue they are black. I would argue they are African.
But they're not, prior to that, they say I'm not black. You get what I'm saying?
I understand. Okay, I don't identify with y'all, but when there's a benefit to be obtained, I will.
Yes.
Temporarily. Yes. Until I get what I need and just roll off the boat.
Exactly.
Okay. Anyone who is disingenuous about their membership in the African race should be rejected from it. I don't believe in part-time Africans, Half-Africans. I don't believe in opportunistically Africans, right?
Definitely.
Like what you're...
Did he just say Half-Africans?
Speaking of, selective Africans. If there's something that I can select that will be a benefit for me, I'll be African for a week, for a day, for a year until I get it, and then I'm not African no more. I reject all of them.
Okay.
Whether that's a Jamaican African or an American African.
Definitely.
Because you got black folks right here who are the offspring of our enslaved ancestors who don't identify as being black. For me, blackness is a two-pronged test. First of all, are you biologically African?
Definitely,
And are you psychologically African? So if I look at some of my Puerto Rican African brothers and sisters or some of my Dominican African brothers and sisters, many of them are biologically black, but they do not psychologically identify with the race at all. Many do, but more often than not, they don't. And so for the ones who do not identify, I don't accept. I don't believe in begging, pleading, or forcing people to be African. You follow what I'm saying?
Definitely.
It's an honor to be God's original people. It's an honor to have the strongest DNA. It's an honor to be the oldest people, the most creative people. It's an honor to be who we are. We're God's first children. We are the chosen people. So I'm not forcing nobody. If you think being ultra light skinned is a benefit, run with it. You understand? If you think speaking Spanish makes you better than black people speak English, you run with it. Or if you're an American Negro like Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who goes out of your way to support the white power structure at the expense of African people, you run with that. You follow me? Anybody who wants out, I'm letting them out. Because the worst thing you can do is force a black person to be black when they don't want to be. Because the minute they get a chance to stab you in the back, they're going to do it 2 times. You follow me? So anybody who don't want to be, you're free to leave. And let's deal with the people who are 100%,
but
24 hours a day, unapologetic.
And if you say this to our aunties, our grandmas, they're going to forgive them. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, let them back in. You get what I'm saying?
But the issue...
But don't you think...
Well, let me go back. Let me take a step back. For me,
this
should only be one reparations movement anyway. I don't support the tribalistic approach to reparations where the American Africans got their own fight, the Caribbean Africans got their own fight, the continental Africans got their own fight, The Australian Africans got their own fight. The Brazilians got their own fight. Central American Africans,
Okay, so this is an interesting sit down and chat, and I could watch the whole thing, but I don't want to. Reason being is because this conversation I've heard many of times. What I am gonna do though,
We all came from.
I'm gonna direct y'all to this channel, which is the Daily Wrap Up Crew. I just subscribed YouTube. I don't usually subscribe to podcasts. I don't know why. I just don't. But this is a very interesting podcast. Dr. Umar Johnson is definitely going to make it racial. Okay. But when I hear about it being racial, I don't know why, but something in me just stops. It tunes me out because I understand that the world is bigger than just our race. It's very important, but the world is bigger than our race. I'm not into the rat race. You know what I mean? But this is definitely interesting. I'm definitely gonna watch more of it, and this is only part 1, so there's more to it. If you want to watch the whole thing, man, you can watch that. I got more. I got some videos coming up too as well, reaction videos that I'm gonna drop on here. I may be back on later on to watch something live with you guys. But just stay tuned. You know what I mean? Make sure you keep your mind open and adjusted properly so that you don't fall into a rabbit hole where it's retardation and foolishness. Make sure that you're allowing yourself time to think about whatever you're hearing. Okay? Make sure you call